the Court of Appeal is this morning set to hear a case in which the IEBC is contesting last Friday's judgment which nullified presidential ballot papers printing in the tender awarded to the Al Ghurair Printing and Publishing Company. Of course, the IEBC is also seeking an order stopping the implementation of the judgment until its appeal is heard and determined. High Court judges Joel Ngugi, Jojo Odunga and John Mativo made a finding that the Commission had failed to engage in public participation while awarding the tender. They directed IEBC to start the process afresh and come up with a framework for ensuring public participation. In the papers filed at the Court of Appeal, IEBC argues that the judges made an error in law in finding that public participation is a mandatory precondition to direct procurement conducted as provided under the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act. The judges were also faulted for holding that the suit was a constitutional matter when it was a challenge of the award thus regulated by the law. Of course, in studio, once again, I'm with Onyango Oloo here, right here with me. And now, you've seen the development there. And we're just 24 days away from the general elections. Yes. If, the push and pull continues between IEBC, the court processes, and now we're told they are still engaging some of the presidential candidates, is it going to affect the election date? Let me begin from there.
Let us be frank with ourselves as citizens of this great country. IEBC has always put a hurdle after hurdle after hurdle in this tendering process. Every time, remember this process started sometimes in October last year.
Yes.
And it was to be an open tender as provided for by the law. They messed it up, they bungled it, and so we ended up where we are. After even the Procurement Administrative Tribunal directed them to restart it, they refused to restart it. They went to appeal, and in the meanwhile there was no stay order. They refused to start the process until the appeals were dismissed. Then they restarted it. When they restarted it, again deliberately, what do? They refused to go through the open tender. They now bring the restricted tender. When they bring the restricted tender, they do not invite new people, but instead they lie that they have invited new people. So the very 9 people, 8 of whom had been disqualified, end up being the people who have been again re-invited, meaning they are again technically disqualified. So we still end up with Al Ghurair. So hurdle after hurdle, IEBC seem hell-bent in providing or ensuring that Al Ghurair gets this contract.
Of course, Jubilee is also accusing NASA of giving IEBC some sort of hurdles as well.
We would love to hear which are these hurdles that NASA has presented. NASA has always only insisted, please go as per the law. That is why whenever they have put these hurdles, and which we maintain that Jubilee has been part of, we go to court, and the court and the tribunals have always found it in favor of NASA's position. So to date, as we talk, let us put it this way: there is enough time, because the court did not direct them to do open tender system, which even requires only 21 days. And remember,
we have 24 days now.
We have 24 days. Remember, if you go to the original tender which they gave Al Ghurair undertook from the day of the award of the contract to deliver within 21 days. So had they started even last week, we had more than a week to have ballot papers in this country.
So there's a failure from IEBC clearly. Now, during the consultative meeting, they met some of the presidential candidates. Of course, all of them didn't attend. And specifically, some of them who came, they came on condition that, IEBC should act in good faith.
Yes.
And I saw one of the presidential candidates, Ekuru Aukot, who was very disappointed after he learned that as much as the meeting was going on, IEBC was also trying to appeal. So what does this mean now?
What simply this means is that IEBC is not as independent as we are meant to believe. Someone is pulling the strings and telling IEBC...
Who is this someone you're talking about?
Basically, definitely Jubilee is behind IEBC. Jubilee is IEBC and IEBC is Jubilee. Why do I say this? A few weeks ago, if you remember, Jubilee, when they were confident that Al Ghurair had the contract, they had the audacity to go to the public and tell them, we do not care who print the ballot papers, give it even to Spectre. But now when it is taken from Al Ghurair, now they start throwing tantrums all over, saying that NASA want to scuttle this thing. So we are saying Jubilee has got direct involvement in this tender process, and they're the ones pulling the strings. And so our court is perfectly in order to say, how do you engage us so that we move forward? At the same time, you appeal. In a sense, you are engaging us in a process that is meaningless, that is meant to achieve nothing.
In Baringo, the president was very clear. He was saying that, they are, there are individuals who are frustrating the electoral body, that is IEBC.
Yes.
Of course, you mentioned the opposition.
Yes.
And then he added the judiciary.
Yes.
And now we're seeing that IEBC is trying to appeal. Is this going to twist everything as far as the judgment or the ruling is concerned? Do you think that will have an effect?
It is unfortunate that the Jubilee leadership would attack the judiciary in the manner it did attack the judiciary. Equally an independent institution. In fact, the bastion of our democracy is the judiciary. The arbiter between the government and the people, the institutions and the people, and the institutions amongst themselves. You bring the judiciary's repute into disrepute, you bring the entire democratic process to which we ascribe tumbling down. So my view is the judiciary is comprised of competent judges, professionals who are trained in their own right, and I don't see them succumbing to the pressure from the Jubilee quarters. I don't see them arriving at a decision that is politically inclined. The only sad thing is that the politician has never appreciated that the judges are professionals and they swear oath of allegiance to the republic and to the independence of the judiciary. So it is unfortunate that Jubilee leadership thinks that they can bring the executive power and authority to bear onto the judiciary. Those years are long gone. And take it from me, the judiciary will make an independent decision. Exactly.
Now, during the ruling, of course, the ruling went, NASA's way. Yes. It didn't favor IEBC, and many did not expect IEBC to go ahead and appeal. They've done that. They are on the process, in the process of exactly doing that.
Yes.
And ODM, or rather NASA, were on record saying that if the ruling did not go their way, they're also going to appeal the ruling. So Jubilee have been saying that NASA are not ready for elections. Do you think this will give them some sort of fodder, some sort of something to to criticize NASA even more?
Politically, that is what Jubilee has been saying. But we have been saying as NASA, bring the elections even tomorrow. But we are not going to participate in an election whose outcome is predetermined. In an election where we know who is supposed to be the president, and all institutions are working to ensure that that person becomes the president.
Yeah.
That one, NASA has made it clear that if these elections is going to take place, the elections must be credible, must be transparent, and must be an election that is believable. We are not going to just participate in an election that we know already who has been predetermined. That one, take it from me. So Jubilee may want to do to use that as fodder, but we are saying bring the elections even today, but make it free, fair, transparent.
Hypothetically speaking, let's say IEBC's application sells through.
Yes.
We know court rulings in Kenya, the court processes are long. Yes. We only have 24 days to the general election.
Yes.
Time is ticking very fast.
Yes.
Do you think there's a possibility that we might not actually hold the election on 8th August?
We are going to have elections on 8th August.
But there are so many things happening in between.
Take it from me. For the first time, you're seeing the judiciary making decisions within a week, making decisions within 3 days. Who had thought earlier that election nomination processes could be determined by the judiciary within 3 days, 4 days, 1 week? That was unimaginable a few days back. But we are having a judiciary that is now competent, ably staffed, that has got men and women who are willing to burn the midnight oil to ensure that they deliver on their mandate within time. Take it from me that even if it was ordered to be restarted a week from today, restricted tender does not require 21 days, number one. Number two, if these companies, Al Ghurair included, that the Jubilee has been insisting on, that are truly international, how many papers do standard media print in a day?
Actually,
printing ballot papers is a matter of hours.
during the consultative meeting between IEBC and
Yes.
the presidential candidate, I heard one of the presidential candidates, that is Abdul Badida, saying that this thing should be done even locally. But again, Jubilee are raising concern that they're saying NASA are also interested in this tender. How true is that?
We are not interested in the tender at all. That is why NASA is simply saying this Algurea insistence on Algurea smells of a skunk. We don't want this Algurea, but give it to whomsoever you want and follow the process. There is a reason for which Kenyans suffered to give themselves the Constitution of 2010. That Constitution must be followed. The laws of this land must be respected. We have no interest whatsoever as NASA in having this tender go our way. We are only interested that this tender must go to the most deserving, most competent, most transparent, and most neutral agent that will ensure that nobody has the ballot papers beforehand.
Many thanks, Onyango Oloo, for your input. Of course, that analysis comes at a time when we're waiting for the appellate court to hear an application by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that is IEBC, seeking the interpretation of an earlier ruling on printing of presidential ballot. Actually, I'm told that hearing is already underway. We're going to link up with our reporters shortly, and they're going to give us an update from there. But for now, Kenyan